So does it make sense to own a home if you're going to pay like $700 a month more to own it versus rent? I mean, how can that make sense? Well, in this video here, we're going to actually dig into the buy versus rent and kind of figure out when people say that owning a home might be the single greatest investment that they make into their retirement future. What does that really look like? What does that mean? So let's dig into this. You're going to want to watch this video because, again, I think it's going to be eye opening. If you know somebody who's a first time home buyer or maybe even bought a home before but been out of the market, just doesn't quite get this, send this to them. They're going to love it as well. Okay, so let's just jump into some assumptions. Okay, what am I going to use for numbers here? I'm going to assume a 5% down payment on this. Okay, so there are 0% down loan programs, 3% down, 3.5%. We're going to go 5% down on a conventional loan. And given the market we're in here, it's very likely that a seller would agree to actually pay the closing costs so that the buyer can get into the home for just their down payment. I do this all the time, so this is not something surprising. So $22,000 all in. We'll assume a credit score is 740, but again, I promise you, we can do these numbers with people with 650, credit score 660, and you're going to see some amazing numbers that benefits owning over renting. So home appreciation, I'm going to run this based on Lynn County, Oregon, and I'm going to use 4.47% in my numbers here. The 63 average, just so you know, is 4.78. So I'm coming in a little bit lower than the last 63 years and way lower than the last 10 years, which is 6.78%. Now we're looking at 9 years. So we're averaging it. Some years will be higher, some will be lower. We're going to average it out at the 4.47. Now, when we compare it to renters, we're going to assume that the rents will go up 5% per year. The national average is actually around 8%. So again, I'm being very conservative here. And in Oregon this past year, the state actually approved landlords to increase rents by 9%, I think it was. So again, conservative numbers. So I Googled what the average rate of return on the S&P was, and Google says it's about 10.7% per year. So when we compare this, as far as do we put $22,000 into a home or do we put it into an investment, we'll use 10.7%. And long-term capital gains will estimate at 15%. Now, I do want to give my disclaimers. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not giving financial advice. Seek a financial advisor for that. I'm not a CPA. Tax rules change all the time. Everybody's taxes are different based on their income. So we're just using numbers here for comparison's sake. All right, so let's get into some fun numbers. Okay, so here is a house, and this is a real scenario, okay? This is actually a house that I own, a rental property. Current value is $440,000. I actually just bought it a year ago at like $425, and it's rented for $2,600 a month. Now, actual current rents online says it should be more around $2,800, so I'm under renting it, but that's okay. Good tenants. And we're going to compare that then to a scenario at a 6.5% interest rate. Again, this is about mid-February. Rates go up, go down, not a rate quote. And APR about 6.69. Now, when we do our apples to apples, again, you're seeing a $700 more to own versus rent. And this is where people check out. And unfortunately, they're always missing the opportunity to be a part of the benefits of home ownership. So again, stay tuned. Let me show what that looks like. So principal and interest payment, a little bit higher. Property taxes. If you rent, you don't pay taxes. Got mortgage insurance in here, about $77 a month. Homeowners insurance is about $60. You pay a little bit more if you own the property because you have to insure the property and your goods. And also because you own the property, when things break, you have to fix it. So we're going to say about $175 per month on average. Most months there's no repairs, but when you do, it probably costs more than $175. And this is a house that's in pretty good shape, so there shouldn't be a lot of deferred maintenance at all. So what we look at then is how does this look over time? And the big red here is danger, danger, right? I mean, to own this house, when you factor in over a 9-year period that you're paying more the first 5 years, the same in year 6, and then you're actually saving in 7, 8, 9. When you look at it, you're all in, you're actually going to spend about $14,300 more to own this house than to rent. Again, that's the difference in the monthly payments, the difference in the maintenance costs, and so on. So that's the difference here. And this, again, if it wasn't the payment that stopped you from buying, it might be the fact that you think, wow, I should take that $14,000 and save that money. But let's take a look at what really happens when you own. So same numbers above. Now what we're going to look at is this benefit. People talk about home appreciation, but I don't think really most homeowners or home buyers, particularly potential ones have never bought a home, don't actually know what does that look like? What is compounding rate of return when you start with a $440,000 price point? What does that look like? Well, here you go. Just using 4.47%, 212. Now, again, it's been a lot more in this last 6 years, but going very conservative, there you go. Now, what's this amortization gain? Because that's a benefit as an owner that you don't get as a renter. And essentially, it's this. When you own a home and you make your payment, you're reducing your principal loan balance. So when you sell the house, you don't have the same loan amount to pay off. So you're kind of getting a refund, to think about it, for the money you put into it. So if I sold the house for the same price that I got into it, plus my realtor fees, I'm coming out with $55,000 still because I paid down my principal balance. A renter gets zero back. So just this by itself puts you way better than the renter at year 9. And I'm using 9 years because most people own a home 9 to 11 years. And so it's a pretty good comparison. Now, if you own and you're going to sell it, I'm going to assume you're going to hire a professional real estate agent, get top dollar, make sure you're represented well. And so you're going to spend about $39,000 to do it. Now, this last little part here, tax benefit, you may or may not get this. There's a lot goes into taxes to know whether or not you would get a benefit for that. So when I get to the next screen, let's just go ahead and deduct that out and we'll just assume you don't get that. But there could be potential tax benefits, and that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So here we go. At year 9, you sell the house. You pay the fees to the realtors. You're at $210,000. Let's say you didn't have a tax benefit. You might back that out and say you're more like $205,000 better than renting. Does this not blow your mind? $205,000 additional wealth because you got to own. And you got the benefit of owning your own home. You can paint the rooms whatever color you wanted. You can have dogs. You can have cats. You can have goldfish. It doesn't matter. It's your home. Don't have to worry about a landlord having to approve that. All the benefits and pride that comes with home ownership, plus $205,000 to $210,000 wealth created during that time. And if you look down here, year by year, you can see you don't have to be in it for 9 years to break even. Even at just year 3, you've gotten $13,000 to the good. Year 4, you've over doubled your money. So this here, in a nutshell, is why people say that owning a home is most likely the single greatest contributing factor towards a person's retirement. How long does your 401k and you get to work at before it does this type of return? Well, I ran some numbers, so let's take a look here. All right. So let's just take a look here. And again, this was your purchase price, $22,000 investment. Let's go ahead and just say, hey, instead of buying a house, I'm just going to throw this money into the S&P 500. And then 9 years later, 210,000 versus 55. Again, using that rate of return we saw when we Googled it, 55,000. So on an S&P, over 9 years, you had 150% return on your investment, ROI, return on investment. Whereas if you owned a home, taking all the expenses to get in, to maintain it, and to get out of it, you're a 955% return on investment. And again, looking at estimated taxes under current tax law, if you're purchasing a primary residence and you've lived in it for 2 out of the last 5 years, talk to your CPA, no tax on that. So that's $210,000 creation tax-free compared to your S&P when you pay the taxes, you're right around $46,000. So the question here then begs, does it make sense to A, invest in the stock market and not own a home but rent? And then B, if the difference between owning and renting, or maybe even owning a nicer home with less deferred maintenance that better meets my needs, means maybe reducing my contributions towards my retirement. Does that make sense when you look at the overall return? Great question. Since I'm not a financial advisor, take this, talk to a financial advisor, have them give you their advice. But here's the big question. And I think at the end here, again, the question to ask them is, what makes more sense? Do I rent and invest the difference in a 401k, knowing what I know now, or do I maybe contribute less to my 401k and own a home if it makes a difference of owning versus renting, even if I pay more to own versus rent? So I hope you found this video helpful. And again, if you have any questions or comments, put those down below. If the video was helpful, thumbs up. That's the only way other people hear about this. And share this with your friends so that they can also understand the benefits of home ownership. And until next time, have a great day.